Welcome to Cyber Power of Tigray Media Talk Show. Today, I have two very high intellectual individuals, Mr. Berakheth Kiros and Dr. ኣማኑኤል ወልድን. Today, we will be discussing about the veto powers, how many veto powers that we have, and if this veto powers is failed, what will be the consequences if Abiy Ahmed couldn't able to kick off the Eritrean government, what is going to happen next? And more, we will discuss about this. First, I will introduce Mr. Berakheth himself. I know most of my followers are he's already been known in this Cyber Power of Media Talk Show, but I will let him himself to announce and introduce himself, as well as Dr. ኣማኑኤል ወልድን. Welcome to Cyber Power of Tigray Media.
Thank you, Efrem, Cyber Power, for having us here as your guests. And my name is Berakheth Kiros, and I'm editor of Ethiopian Observer. And also, I am a community activist here in Seattle, Washington.
Thank you so much, Efrem. My name is Dr. ኣማኑኤል ወልድን, and thank you so much for having me on Cyber Power of Tigray. I'm so delighted to participate in this program.
Thank you so much. Before we start our discussion, I would like to have this very interesting and quite I don't know how to explain, but it's a kind of relaxing, and they will express, which is in Tigrinya, not in English. But let's have this song first, and then we'll continue our discussion.
Gana koyu alsi gana koyu alsi gana koyu alsi معاصيات تفلينا فتنا مرير نديون بالقعزنا كحل فيو تفادي محنتنا قدنيو عودتنا وروحنا لكسيبون
كوردنا
وروحنا لكسيبون كوردنا ألفلنا نبتفا تقرأي حدي كتو يلنزل
كفا
gana koyu اتفرسي gana koyu اتفرسي gana koyu اتفرسي ስለይኮነን ትምሒልና ንትሕሎ ኣብ ምልኣትኩም ኮይና ዲና ጎደሎ ኣብ ባእታኹም መሪር ስቓይናትና ኣሎ ግድን እዩ ዓወትና ወሰን ኣሎ
ወትሩ ቃልና
ልክሲ ይኹን
ክቡር ደምና
ይቅየርን ወትሩ ቃልና ልክሲ ይኹን ክቡር ደምና ኣእላፍ ኣለና ንምንጻፋ ትግራይ ዓደይ
ከቶ የለን
ዝስትትካ ከቶ የለን ዝስትትካ
Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. It's very nice and it's very current. That expresses the entire current situation in Tigray. So thank you for waiting for me, Mr. Barakat and Dr. Emmanuel. Let's start with the council members or the veto powers. Let's count them. Some people, they say the veto powers are only 5. 5 of them are very powerful and those are the one who can decide or which decides everything in security problems in the world. But some people are getting confused when Indian are already joined to decide about, I don't know if they are able to decide with these council members or not, but let's just discuss about this. How many council members do we have in the entire world?
Thank you.
If you don't mind, if you can count them and name them.
I will. First of all, it is really hard to continue this discussion after hearing this music and the scenery, the beautiful scenery that our Tigray have. And it brings a lot of memories, lost memories, and also the lyrics, no one dares to touch Tigray. It has not finished our struggle. It's just something to think for. And really, I am touched by it. And I don't know how I'm going to continue with such good lyrics and good scenery and good people. But that is a way of life. We just have, that's one of the things that make us work hard, protest, because we haven't forgotten them, those kind and generous people. Just to come back to your question, yes, the council is composed of 15 members. 5 of them are permanent, like China, France, Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States. So those are the 5 permanent that have a bit of power. And there are 10 countries, non-permanent members in the assembly. And they are changed every 2 years. Currently, we'll name them Estonia, India, Ireland, Kenya, Mexico, Niger, Norway, St. Venice, and Grenada, and Tunisia, and Vietnam. But for our case, for our Tigray, 3 African countries are more important. Kenya, Niger, Tunisia. Those are the 3 countries that they're going to bring the Ethiopian and Tigray situation in the council. And Kenya is the chair for the 10 permanent member of the assembly. So this is what it is right now, how it is, the structure is formulated. But, this is really another colonial type of engagement here among those colonialists, to say the least. Still, they have the veto power to decide whatever. And there has never been a situation where there are a couple of situations in Afghan where the Russians were absent, and also in the case of other country, I forgot it was in the Iraq situation as well. But they always agree to disagree. So this is what it looks like, the role of the Security Council and the 10 permanent members of countries that are elected every 2 years.
Okay. Dr. Emmanuel, I've heard that those council members, can they act unilaterally even though they are in the situation of disagreement on the Ethiopian current situation?
Thanks, Mr. Ephraim, for the great question. Mr. Barakat has explained it clearly, the 15 members, current members of the United Nations. To answer your question, as we know from history, we've seen the Iraqi war recently. We also have seen the Syrian war. We've seen so many civilians being killed on a daily basis, and the United Nations, there were so many resolutions coming at the table. Unfortunately, there were divisions among. Those divisions come from different interests among the United Nations members, especially the 5 veto wielding members. Mr. Barakat discussed the China, Russia, United States, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom. So I think on this one, the most players I think we've seen from the last 2 wars that we had in Iraq and Syria. The United States, there's one on one side, and then the Russia and China on the other side. There's always conflict of interest among them. Even there is a slight piece of word that conflicts with their interest, they will not hesitate to veto the resolution that is presented in the table. So most of the time, as we've seen, many resolutions fail at the United Nations because of those different groups, but individual countries or group of countries outside the United Nations can impose their own actions. For example, they can impose sanctions on their own. For instance, the United States can do on the Ethiopian government. They can punish the government economically. They can prevent the selling of weapons to that country on their end, just by themselves. So they have a very good, strong power compared to other countries. So therefore, if we don't have the full vote, the full support of the United Nations, then definitely we're going to go the route way, the one that you told us, just asking single members to impose both economic and political restrictions on the government of Ethiopia. So yes, we can.
Great. Would you like to add something on this particular topic, Mr. Barakat Kiros?
Yeah, if first of all, we have to. I want to make it clear we are not experts in this field, but it is our opinion on war crimes in Tigray. I want to make sure our audience that in case if we have something to say, it is based on the knowledge we acquire and from readings that we are expressing our opinions, and it has to be clear. So, let's go to the International Criminal Court, ICC, because the whole issue is we're going to talk about those 2 dictators of Isaias Afwerki and Abiy. So the International Criminal Court, what we call ICC, has no mandate to prosecute Abiy and Isaias. This is not what we want to hear, but unless requested by the United Nations Security. The reason is that Ethiopia and Eritrea, as we know, has not joined the ICC. But the UN Convention was ratified in Rome status, I think, in 1940 something, in Article 6. Moreover, the International Court of Justice has acknowledged several times that the convention embodies the principles that are part of a general customary law and international law. By this extension implies whether a country or a state have ratified genocide convention or not, they are bounded as a matter of law by the principle that genocide is a crime prohibited under international law. Here is the definition. So based on that, we're going to go to the definition. What is genocide? Because there is so many definitions in genocide, but the real definition that genocide is most often used in the official United Nations definition is the intentional killing of all parts of a designed people defined by the faith, their race, their ethnicity, and their nationality. Here is the argument that comes. Yes. So whether they are parts ratified ICC or not, they are bound by the International Court of Justice for the same principle that I try to explain. Definition. That's what we are trying to them. They are accountable. So following the definition of genocide and the principle of the convention, we can make some explanatory records with respect to the crimes perpetrated by Abiy Ahmed and Isaiah Afwerki against the people of Tigray. And that's what we are arguing. The people of Tigray are victims of genocide and against humanity and aggression, and are deliberately targeted by Abiy Ahmed Isaiah Afwerki military forces, and based on physical and mental evidence we have trying to furnish, like Aksum and different parts of Mekelle, Agula, and Adwa, in Shire, and so all those atrocities that has been committed. So this is the two dictators of Ethiopia and Eritrea have committed a crime that is prohibited under the international law that we're trying to define. Because here is the international law and the customary law. So those are the basis why we are trying to put them into International Court of Justice, ICC. And if I can add on Dr. Emmanuel, out of China and Russia, they are abstain or they are not trying to push the case in, if you guys follow, war criminals to be charged. They are opposing for two reasons. One, they don't want to create a precedent in their country. We know Russia has some problems with minorities in Chechnya. And China have some problems on their own with the Muslims. So Tigray case, Tigray is under Ethiopia right now, under the Federation of Ethiopia. They don't want to create a precedent. If they're going to allow, if they're going to vote in the Security Council, that becomes a customary law. So any country will take as a precedent what happened in Tigray. So this is one of the things that they are afraid of. On the second level, it is about economic interest. Let's take China. China has invested so much in Ethiopia that you guys know already. So they are after their investment. If Ethiopia follows in Kyos and all kind of stuff, they're not going to get the return of their investment. So merely, it is about economic interest over humanity. So for them, humanity is on the second phase. So that's what we see back and forth, because as Dr. Emmanuel said, countries, they base their decision on their national interest as opposed to the principle of international law and customary law.
Okay. Well, yeah, Dr. Emmanuel, I want you to add something on this case, because this is, I think, the main subject the main topic that we have to discuss today, because it's very controversial. Because we have seen mass displacement. About 60,000 people fled to Sudan since the war started. And families are separated and children left without parents. 2 million internally displaced. Some had traveled on foot for 2 weeks. Many killed when Eritrean forces shelled and attacked towns with heavy artillery. Shelter in school and other public places. This is mass killings in act of genocide. Well, I'm just getting confused sometimes. Some people, they would like to call it ethnic cleansing. Well, we are agreed to call it genocide, what's going on in Tigray. So I want you to emphasize on this special two type of ethnic cleansing and the genocide, the definition or how we can understand on this, on top of the previous question. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. The one point that I want to add to Mr. Berg's points are, besides the economy, about God, just they have conflict of interest, as he stated, based on economy, and then also there is, if you know the Horn of Africa, it's a very vital area for, we know the Red Sea, we know a lot of parties are involved in this conflict. It's not only Ethiopia or Eritrea and Somalian soldiers or Amhara militias are the ones who are involved in this one. There are other background players, especially the Middle Eastern countries. As we have noticed, the United Arab Emirates was involved at the beginning of the war in bombarding civilians, church, mosques, from what we heard and what we've seen. So there's that geopolitical control of that region is a very vital for these countries. As Barakat stated, there's Russia and China siding on one side, and the United States and the European countries on the other side. They have a conflict of interest. And then these Arab countries who have some history of hate toward Tigrayans, just because if we know the history in Aksum, there's a religious conflict in there. Trying to build a mosque and so on. There is so much stuff going on here. So that also affects the decision-making body at the United Nations. So we've seen from Iraq, almost 500,000 people died. 500,000 people died. The United Nations could have prevented this. I'm talking about civilian deaths. I'm not talking about military or people in uniform, but civilians died, 500,000 people. And we've seen the mass displacement, the mass migration from Syria to Europe. So many people lost their lives drowning in the ocean, in the desert, starvation, all going on. Still, the United Nations was fighting. They were fighting on the wording of the resolutions. Every single time we've seen, there's always between Russia and the United States. So the point is, the answer is not going to be from the United Nations. If we wait for the United Nations to act, it's going to take forever. It's time consuming. They may not even come up with a solution. But as Barakat stated, to bring those people who are responsible for these war crimes, there's a genocide, definitely genocide. As Barakat stated, that this is a deliberate killing of civilians of one group, one tribe, who are Tigrayans residing in their country, and they're to weaken that area, the whole population, so that they can govern the whole East Africa their way, the Isaias way, and Abi is his puppet. The master is Isaias. So the genocide, definitely, because we've seen this is not killings of soldiers of the Tigray Defense Forces. We've seen priests, monks being killed every day, Sunday school students, little children. There's a rape going on, mass rapes. And from what we've heard, there's mass graves going on that in Tigray. So the solution is going to be, the main solution is from the TDF. The solution is going to be from the people of Tigray. That's the key. So we can use the United Nations to bring those criminals to justice. They can face the war crimes, but we have to support our people. We have to support the TDF by any means that we can in order to prevent this ongoing genocide. So the question that you ask is the difference between the genocide. Oh, definitely this is genocide, because this is not just random on one or two targeting of people, but these are purposely targeting them, people who gathered for religious celebrations in church or in mosques. They're being bombarded. They're being killed randomly. Eritrean soldiers walk in there. They see civilians praying, appreciating God, and celebrating just the yearly celebrations that they do. And guess what? They get shot, just all of them. So if you don't call this one genocide, I don't know what we call.
Yeah, if I may, this is really the whole issue. The whole issue lies on those principles that we are talking about. So, what can we expect in the future? I think this is what we are coming from, the Security Council. Is there any hope that the international community will do something about the suffering of the people of Tigray, our people? Will Tigray will be on the agenda on March 11, on Thursday? I think this is all what they want to hear. But if what happened today is a guide, like what they decided on Friday, we should not expect a firm action from the United Security Council at the meeting. We should not. The reason is there is a positive note on the Security Council meeting that shows, especially all in favor are the democratic countries that heavily invested in Ethiopia, United States, all European Union, besides China. But I mean, we know how much China has invested. So having said that, especially, there are countries, those are the countries that matters the most. They are democratic, they invest in Ethiopia, and also they concern about human rights. Because of Ireland, we were able to get, at least Ireland tried to put the draft into resolution for Thursday, but it failed because of Russia and China's lack of support. So they don't need any Security Council or warrant, those European countries, United States, if they want to do that. As Dr. Emmanuel said, what they have taken a precedence in Iraq and in Libya as well. Yeah. So that should be emphasized at the end is we should fight Isaias and Abiy with our defense forces. And that is the ultimate. We have to prepare for more. Tigray has relied throughout history on her children's sacrifice. And this is not going to be an exception.
Okay. I think you guys are like, both of you, I do appreciate the explanation that you gave me. Currently, when I was thinking about what's going on in Tigray, Abiy Ahmed blocked access to humanitarian aid for more than 3+ months now, since the war started in November 4. He refused calls, pressures from the world leaders, And the United Nations reporters sound the alarm over a very critical malnutrition situation is going on in Tigray. More than 4.5 million people in emergency need of food, and critical shortage of food, medicine, fuel, and cash. People already dying from starvation, unclean water, lack of medicine, and trauma. So, I know, especially Barakat, you have your own group, and you have. I heard there is some court in ICC is going on, maybe initiated. We don't know the final decision will be, but do the internal the ICC, do they have a mandate to prosecute Abiy and Isaias?
Yes, definitely. They do have the mandate. That's what we were trying to discuss about the customary law and the international law. Even though both of them not a signatory to the ICC convention, they are obliged to follow through the international norm and standards, just like a civilized nation. I know the Eritrean dictator has its own way of dealing, insulting institutions, and undermining rule of law, and that has been going on for years. Now it reached the point where it cannot be managed. Let me go a little bit further on the two superpowers. The real reason why China and also India, even though it is not a superpower, and Russia, that they have their own domestic issue with regard to minorities, and do more precedent if they are allowed in the Security Council the case of Tigray to be heard with a forced resolution condemning Abiy and Isaias regime. Chinese are engaged in ethnic cleansing of Uyghur, it's a minority Muslim communities. And also Russia treats its minorities horrible. I mean, Chechnya, look at it, how many years of war. And also India treatment with Sikh followers. Much to be desired. In short, states are not acting out of a favor, but in accordance with the national interest. So we should not be surprised by it. So yes, they're gonna be held accountable, because when we talk about the definition, intentionally killing civilians and minorities of one group to eliminate, that warrants the persecution of the two dictators.
Okay. Dr. Emmanuel, maybe if you would like to say something on this regard.
Sure. I would like to add to what Mr. Barakat stated. Like I said earlier, the permanent members of the United Nations, especially Russia, we know the main reason they don't like this resolution, or they don't pass a resolution at the United Nations body, is because they have conflict of interest. Russia, for example, Crimea, they say it's an internal matter. So anytime the United Nations try to act on behalf of the people of Crimea, they would say it's an internal matter. It's our land. The same thing with China, which they have a little island. They claim it's under their control. It's still Chinese land. So this is what they're saying, internal matter. But even though it's an internal matter here, Tigray was part of Ethiopia, but the Ethiopian government, the main difference is the Ethiopian government invited a foreign power to attack, to kill his people, specifically, deliberately, the Tigrayan ethnic people. That's a difference. So this one mounts to war crimes. So we have the European countries, if we know the land size, the Russians have a very large size of land. China, the same thing. The United States have large size. the European countries favors this resolution because before, as we know, that right now they are very small countries being united as European Union. So they have this, I would say, great feelings toward Tigrayans because it's a small nation, a small part of Ethiopia, trying to have a democratic government, a democratic system in that area. But this federal government is preventing the building of this democratic system in that region. So having a democratic system in Tigray region is a threat to both Isaias and Ethiopia. We know for sure from history, we can go back 300, 400 years. We know from history, Ethiopia is dysfunctional in the absence of Tigray. Abiy Ahmed, at the beginning, when he took over the power, he clearly stated that Tigray is the engine of Ethiopia. Definitely, we know that. They don't like the growth, they don't like the strength of Tigray, both economically and politically in the world, because they will be left behind. They will be left behind. They've been the last kings, we know them, Minilik, Zara Yacob, Haile Selassie, so on and so on and so on. They've been leading the country by force for hundreds of years. But Ethiopia was known for poverty, for starvation, for non-peaceful region in that Africa area. So the point is, we have countries who do understand our struggle. There are countries in European countries who are small. Before they were being colonized by Russia, they had a threat from Russia, from other large countries. So they know what we're going through. They know our pain. They know what our people are going through right now. So they do understand. Those people, those governments in Russia and in China, how long has Mr. Putin been on power? How about in China, the president? For many years. So if there was a clear democratic system in those countries, you would not see the same person leading the country again and again until they die. So this is a threat for them. So if this kind of resolution passes at the United Nations, then they know they will be next. They will be next. The world will act. So that's why they are intervening, making it very hard to pass this resolution. So again, what we can do is, like Mr. Barakat said, we can work with those European countries independently. We can work with the United States independently. We can bring the government of Ethiopia on its knees, both economically and politically. Economically, we know what they export. We know what they invest. We know what countries they invest. So if we go on different fronts from different angles, then we can bring this government down and help our people.
Great point. Thank you so much, both of you. Let me take you back to today's protest. Widespread raping and torture committed by Eritrean and Ethiopian soldiers. Rape used as a tool to physically terrorize and torture Tigray people. They just say, I'll kill you or rape you. Well, Mona Lisa has lost her left leg and left arm. Individuals forced to rape their own family members, especially in our culture in Tigray. It's very annoying, to see or to hear that kind of pressure. Our most of the Tigray people are religious, and they respect their family member, they can't even take a shower in front of their kids. They can't even do or I don't know. I mean, it's just what's going on? What are they doing? What's the I mean, we are doing the protest today because there are multiple girls has been raped in Tigray. It's intolerable. I cannot tolerate that.
Yeah, it is a good question. Today, actually, it is on Monday is International Women's Day, and this is an unfortunate circumstance that it is befallen on our people, such as those rape, abuse, is just to break the backbone of our people. You know, especially when you use children in this kind of atmosphere, it is a psychological scars. It's going to remain forever with you. You know, it's hard to fathom, even let alone to imagine, let alone to talk, to imagine such in 21st century takes place in our backyard. And those rag, I call it rag, Isaias forces, they are mercenaries. And mercenaries, like any other countries, they do it for money. They lose their lives for money. And as we hear, in order to clean ethnic cleansing Tigrayans, us, and eradicate us from our ancestral land, Abiy, the pathological liar of all, he paid $1 billion. And this is enough, I mean, this is enough evidence to prosecute him alone. The rubber stamp parliament don't have any teeth. And it's a disgrace. Not only for Ethiopia, for black nation. He brings a neighboring who have old axe and they want to get revenge. And they have to be under the dress of Ethiopian defenses and Fanos and all those. They could have acted on their own, but that's a very cowardly act. It is a cowardly act. I mean, if we had an issue, they don't have to wait for 20 years. They could have done it, but they took this kind of opportunist time in order to kneel down our people and totally to disseminate all the hard work and the blood and the sweat that we put through our sacrifice to build what is Tigray. Universities, big industries, power stations, cement, and so on, to be a recoin. And Ethiopia, Tigray, was actually contributing millions and millions to the welfare of Ethiopia at the expense of our people. And this is throughout history. Leaders, by design and by fault, they have been always about Ethiopia rather than about Tigray. And this is what we, especially the young generation, should, the mode operandi. First, we have to take care of ourselves. We don't have to follow every 20 years a war. Everything that we have to build have to be dismantled, and our people have to lose their lives. For what purpose? And there is a lesson that should be learned here. Tigray is for Tigrayans. We have to put our interest first, just like any ordinary nation can. So I think the mindset and operandi had taught us a good lesson. I'm not a prophet going to talk what it's going to be tomorrow's Tigray, but I am certain it's not going to be like a usual, like the previous years and all our leader predecessors have done. Therefore, coming back to your question, it is some psychological thing to break our spirit. But one thing that they didn't understand is when we are pushed, we fight more. And that is the resilience of every Tigray. It doesn't scare us, it doesn't break us our spirit, and has never been and never will. And that is history is a testimony to this fact. Abiy and Isaias has done something unimaginable. They bite more than they can chew. And I can tell you, there is no escape. The trial of criminals is they are going to be prosecuted because in 21st century, with this kind of heinous crime, you cannot sit idle. So we are talking about a matter of time and a matter of time. Time is on our side. I know our people, our country is bleeding, but our spirit is as always as high.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Emmanuel, please, that's your turn in this regard. I also want you to explain or express your feelings, especially in religion. I mean, Ethiopia. When I say Ethiopia, I thought they were very serious in their. I don't know what to say, but I don't want to go there. But Tigray by itself, when I talk about rape, Najashi and Aksumawian king, you know, all that, how people are very connected to religion wise. So when they are forced to rape their own kids or their own sister or their own family member, how does that, how painful that is going to be in our, and what would you recommend for people who are already the victim of this issue and the family member? Thank you. How painful that.
You know, this is a very painful for me as a father. I have a little girl. And to see these young girls going through the pain, the suffering that's happening to them, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. So we know these so-called Ethiopian leaders, they claim they are religious as well. That's what they claim. We know Abiy was a pastor and he wants to be the king. You know, we know his advisor is a deacon, Daniel Kurat. We already heard what these people say. They say to finish the war, we can drop a couple bombs in each city, the war will be over. Abiy has 2 daughters, from what I saw in the picture. I don't know, but this is the landmark of a dictator. A dictator uses every available weapon in order to get to power. They use mass killings, deliberate killing of civilians, rape children. It's unimaginable to have a 6-year-old, 7-year-old girls being raped by soldiers who are supposed to protect those children. So as Mr. Barakat stated, the main purpose of this rape, it's not an organized rape, state-sponsored rape, is to bring down the people of Tigray. To bring down the people of Tigray to torture those girls and their families emotionally and physically. That's how dictators survive. Fortunately, you know, I've grown up in Tigray until I came here. I came here when I was 21. In Tigray is a very disciplined people, very well-mannered people. We don't even see, not only we don't see rape, we don't even hear about a story of rape happening in Tigray. It's not our character. It's not the character of Tigrayans. It's not our culture. Religiously, very well-mannered people who believe in God, who depend on God 100%, who are peace-loving people, who punish those who do crimes according to law. That's what I have seen in Tigray. I don't know in other parts of Ethiopia that may happen. I don't know. But this is an intentional act to bring down the people of Tigray. Luckily, for this one, I like to thank God, our Lord, for giving us this strength, the strength to control, to handle all this situations, this all pressure, this all rape, this all starvation. For God's sake, if he was a religious person, Mr. Abiy Ahmed, he could allow aid organizations so that they can feed the civilians. We're not asking a military help to the TDF. We're asking for the civilians. Tigray is still under Ethiopia. But so to finish that one, the main reason they're doing rape, first of all, they don't believe in the Bible. They're not religious people. They are not religious people at all. This is inhumane act. Anybody, if you ask in a very developed country or in other parts of the world, everybody's against it. But this is the hallmarks of a dictator who to try to bring a section of the country who are very powerful, who are smart. They have a history of achieving their goals peacefully, bringing a country from poverty to a developing country. We've seen from the IMF report, from the World Bank, Ethiopia was growing by 10 digits for 10 years, over 10 years. We know this guy does not know how to lead the country. So the only way he can sustain his power is by punishing those innocent civilians, those people who can oppose him. So categorically, Tigrayans, I don't know either it's by nature or we have a DNA that's being inherited from generation to generation. We do not bow to anybody except to God, except when we pray. When outside force comes to us, we do not bow. We do not bow our head and do whatever they tell us. We fight until the end. That's who we are. So therefore, that's what they're trying to do. Unfortunately, they're not going to succeed. They're not going to succeed because our people will fight until the end.
Yeah, if I may add a little bit to Dr. Amanuel's thought, when we say we are a God-fearing people, it is for no reason. I came myself from monks, or my family. Religion has played a role, just like our ordinary citizens in Tigray. And the religious tolerance, I grew up with Muslims, shoulder to shoulder, dining with them. So such a cultural attribute trying to manifest on our daily lives That's what they are going after, priestess, after manuscripts. Those are the values that we inherited from our ancestors. Those are some elements define who we are. Religion has played part, shaping our ideas and norms to be kind, generous to each other, especially to strangers, to strangers, more than anything else. No one in Tigray will attest for the fact that because he is Amhara or something happened. I mean, look what happened when this pathological liar, Abiy Ahmed, came to power. You know what happened, all the university students everywhere. And we have our own share. Some of our sons and daughters has been killed, who they are, from different parts of the Amhara and Oromia region. But in Tigray, that I know, none of those Ethiopians has been hurt. That is a big hurt. We could have opted for revenge. Think about it, what happened in Gondar. Those vicious Amhara elites fermented the ethnic cleansing in Gondar. And regretted that we could have stopped it back then. We let it go. That has become accumulated because we've been a punching bag for all ills of Ethiopia. Tagaru, they don't deserve. They have uplifted not only economically and politically, even the spirit of Ethiopianness. Ethiopia has been always a synonym name with the starvation and the dictatorship for many years when we grow up during the Derg and Haile Selassie. Well, since EPRDF came to power, much has been done. Much has been done, but always state building is a progress. It is not a one-time process. Still, given a time, EPRDF could have done more. Yes, when you are building a nation and a state, you cannot put.
Let me give you more on the act of the Eritrean soldiers, what they have done in Tigray. Let's talk about looting. I know I heard this when we say looting, it's not something like Eritrean soldiers looted markets, small shops, and even residences, personal, individual residences, including personal belongings such as furniture, utensils, and food. Items from church, from monasteries, all the ambulances, transportation vehicles and trucks. They even renamed or defaced the Trans-Ethiopia cars, trucks, defaced them, the company name, when they're taking trucks to Eritrea. Factory equipment and machineries, medicine equipment and supplies. All of the hospitals are empty now. What is the purpose of all this? What is this? It's a COVID season, and the Tigray people are getting sick, and there is no place our people to get treatment. Is this law and order? The Eritrean government does law and order in Eritrea the last 30 years? Did they call it law and order? Is it really doing law and order by looting, raping, and all that kind of crimes? Would you say something about this to the world, please? I'm getting annoying. I'm getting so sick of this, the last 3 months war in Tigray.
all of us are sick and tired of it. This always, dictators, they give fancy names in order to, justify their deeds. And that has been history as a witness for many of those dictators, like this pathological liar that none of us have so much respect. First of all, he is not a prime minister. He is a caretaker government. That has to be clear, understood. He doesn't have a mandate, and he's not elected officially to lead and to serve Ethiopia. He is a caretaker government. That has to be underlined. Second, he has done his mandates. He is using dictatorial declaration to justify to stay in power with a rubber stamp parliament, the same thing. It's just like, you have a contract for 5 years, you have X numbers of employees. And then without, telling you, the employee decide, hey, because we like the job, we're going to extend another 5 years, whether we like it or not. This is exactly what happened. It is a mockery of a law. It is a mockery of the Ethiopian people. He has no authority. And then he has the audacity to call a state, a government that was elected officially by 2.8 million people, junta. Here is a contradiction. And people like to parrot in the Ethiopian. The Ethiopian people like to parrot. Junta is someone who sees power by force, by declare. So he's the one who is saying junta, and everybody now says junta, and it just, this is in state of condition that Ethiopia is now. Therefore, all the looting has one thing for Isaias. Let's put aside Abiy. This dictator ruined Eritrea economy the last 20-something years. When Tigray is prosperous in terms of agriculture, in terms of university. I mean, from one university to how many universities? God, 8, 7 universities, and also a garment factory that produces a quality clothes and export to many countries. That locates in Adwa. The cement factory that has contributed a lot, because Portland cement is one of the best quality that helps the Renaissance Dam. Without the Moscow cement, it was impossible to do such a marvelous engineering for the Renaissance Dam that many of the Ethiopians are proud of now. And Dr. Emmanuel is going to talk more about. And when we were trying to fundraise, many of the Ethiopians who are now supporters, we were being condemned. We were being mocked. They tried to provoke many times. Now suddenly they are more concerned about this Renaissance Dam. Actually, to be for the fact, when EPRD was running, it was running yearly on 9%. By this time, it had been completed. But you know the story. Now, since he takes the power, the growth rate is reduced by 0.5%, 4.5, as opposed to 9. And God knows, this is a guy who said Ethiopia will never the end of this completion of this Renaissance Dam. So all the things, the loot and all those things is, especially the dictators in neighboring country, he wants to make sure we are poverty-ridden society. Not only that, he's burning crops. He is slaughtering all cows, goats, sheep, even chicken. And I don't know, God forbid, at the end, what our people is going to left for. You know, we are agriculture and sector. Our people mainly use agriculture as a means of survival. About 80% of them, even higher, more than that. They use ox. They don't use machinery. So, yeah, all this is to punish the people of Tigray. Has nothing to do with the TPLF. So that makes sure Tigrayans cannot prosper. So there are two things. Economically, you destroy them, the economic infrastructure that sustains you as the people. Second, he was using jets, tanks, drones, ethnic cleansing that you have seen in Humara and part of the Sid Tigrayan lands. And I, since you brought this, especially I'm really referring the morbid Amharas, that they are obsessed with the land, like Humara and the adjacent Humara areas. I have this book, Nubia and Abyssinia. It was written 200 years ago. Was written 200 years ago, 1833. It says clearly here, since he brought it, Tigray proper, Agame, Nderta, Wajirat, Woldia, Lasta, Abergalle, Simen, Temben, Shire, Wolkait, Waldeba. This is 200 years ago. And those morbid Amhara elites, the proper land that was taken by Haile Selassie in 1947 until the revolution, that justifies them. That is their land. It is such a morbid, sick mind that they are perpetuating the people of Amhara. This is yours. Doesn't have any basis in history. And they talk wide open with no substance at all. And that's the one thing that is fermenting a lot of violence around that area. See, we are caught between Eritreans. Here, the morbid Amhara who wants to take a land that is ours. We have taken, if that is, we have taken, and we have given so much land to Afar. I mean, from Nderta region, this swath of land. So the point that you brought, economy is the basis to subdue a society of like Tigray. That's what they are going after. See, our population can recover. But if you don't have any means to survive, how could you? All the hospitals. We heard a lot of horror stories. People slept on the hospital. They were just killing them, take the bed. And this happened many times in Adigrat, everywhere. So they're going to take us to a stone age to make sure our head is not up. So, yes, all the psychological, all bombing, all destroying economic structure is so that they can punish us, that we cannot recover in the years to come. And this is deliberately done by design.
Great. It's yours, Doctor.
Okay, thank you. So to add that, Mr. Ephraim, so let's see the Eritrean government. First of all, I don't call it a government. They don't have a constitution. They never had any election since they got their independence. And the poor, unfortunate Eritrean young women and men have been disappearing from the country. They've been migrating to Europe, to America, to Africa. We've seen a lot of, in the last 30 years, we have so many young Eritreans who could make a big difference in their country, in Eritrea, but they died in the middle of the ocean, in deserts. Why? Because they have a dictator government leader in their country. You could hardly find a young man or woman walking the streets of Asmara at this time. Either they will be forced to join the military, or they will be arrested for the rest of their life and disappear in the thin air. So we know what Isaiah does. So the main reason they are doing all looting, burning properties, all this, Mr. Barakat explained it really, really well. This is practically to eliminate the people of Tigray from the face of Tigray, so that they could take the land. If Ethiopia was thinking about the people of Tigray, they would not dare to block all the roads that lead from Oromia, from other parts of the country to Tigray. They would not block it. The looting started a long time ago, 3 years ago. They've been looting. People who try to bring gross food supply from other places of Ethiopia, they've been looting it on the way. We know when we had the locust outbreak in Tigray, the government of Ethiopia declined to do the help, the mandatory help that's supposed to do as a federal government, these people. So the main thing is here to punish the people, to kill, if they cannot kill them, so that they can die because of starvation, without access to food, no access to water, no access to medicine. Imagine you have an infection on your body, you don't get an antibiotic to treat it, you die because of that infection. So that's what they're doing. The main reason is to eliminate the people. We know Abiy is a dictator, but the main masterminds of this plan, as Barakat stated, are the Amhara elites. Those people, especially, we have the religious Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church has been a hiding ground for those people who have hate toward Tigray. Those so-called deaconess, bishops, priests, we've seen them in the last, before the war broke. Every priest, every monk, every bishop, archbishop was supporting the military. They were blessing them so that they can kill innocent civilians. We have heard from Deacon Daniel Kibret. He said Ethiopia was at its highest most. This guy was a deacon. He was covered with a deacon's clothing, but when he undressed that clothing, it was fully uniformed, military uniform. Those Mahabara Kadusan, it's supposed to be a religious organization under the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, but they're the main players for this war, for this crime. They were hiding inside the church. They were fighting from the church. The Tigrayan government, the EPRDF, especially the Tigrayan, the TPLF, they have a law states that religion and politics are not connected. They have their own separate places. But these people, they were hiding inside the church to bring down this government. So we know the Amharas, they've been fighting with the Gumuz people. Why? To take away their fertile land. Right now, they are fighting with Sudan to take the land from Sudan. We know a history of fighting with Afar to take their land. We know there are 20 million people of Amharas living in Oromia state. In Oromia state at this of time. So the main reason is to get the more fertile land, to colonize it, just like their king Menelik does, to colonize it, and then after years, 50 or 100 years, then it's all yours. You claim it's yours. That's what history shows. So this land, they claimed they have a land from Tigray. It's their land. We know it's not their land. We have history books. We have some, if you go back in history, we know whose land it is. So the main purpose, the point is that the main purpose they're doing is to bring the people of Tigray to their knees so they can submit, they can go into submission, so they can show that they don't have hope. Yeah. So we have to, again, it's our role. We're living in a developed country. A lot of our young generation people are working hard day and night. We have to expose the crimes being committed against our people. We have to bring those recorded videos, show it to the world. We have to get all these evidences. If we bring it to the world, then we can have a solution. We can bring those people to justice. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very difficult one to find one. Right now, they're turning off the internet. They don't have any communication. People are, for example, he said he allowed news media from the world, from outside Ethiopia. Once they get into the country, in Tigray region, they start recording. What they're doing is they taking away the video cameras, and then they are arresting the people who translate for them. Why? Because they don't want to be exposed. So we have to come up with a mechanism to bring those evidences and enlighten the world with those evidences so that we can bring those people to justice.
Yeah. Efrem, let me interject a little bit about the role of the church in this fiasco.
Can I give you more to add on that about the distraction of? There are a lot of distractions as well. Intentionally destroyed critical infrastructures in Tigray. Eritrean and Ethiopian soldiers destroyed factories like earlier you mentioned Almeda textile factory, pharmaceutical areas in Adigrat, Zenith hair oil in Shire, Saba dimensional stones factory in around Adwa, and many others, many hospitals and clinics and pharmacy stores, government and NGO buildings, churches and mosques, university in Adigrat and Aksum. So all this, when we talk about law and order, I just want to mention those distractions as well on top of the thing. So you may continue now. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, it's fine. I just want to stress on the Mabara Kudus, and those are behind the church, and they were incubators of hate. I call them incubators of hate because those are the one dressed under religious ceremony, but inside real fascist tendency. They under their robe, to say the least. And church, especially like Assumption, has so much history. Arba Hatzabaha, so much history. Debre Damo, so much history in Christianity. And this is the beginning of Christianity. And they have a lot of treasure and manuscripts that the world is yearning to see. And I'm so glad a couple of years by one of Makala University has transformed it to digital, and hopefully this digital is surviving somewhere. Therefore, they didn't even, when the priests and the diaconus are being killed indiscriminately, none of those church leaders have voiced their concern as any human being can. Yes, Daniel Kibret is a stooge and a racist tag that really don't have any respect even, to talk about him in this show. This is a guy who thinks that bombing people can subdue and dehumanize. I mean, this is a guy who thinks he's diacon, but he's an evil man. He's stupid and arrogant even to utter such statement in public. Coming back to your question, Ephraim, as we have said, when you destroy university, you are destroying many work of scientific that has been accumulated into research findings of many years. So it's not we are talking about buildings and chairs and computers. It is the work that has been done for scientific purposes and reasons by many of the scholars and the students, that you cannot replicate those kind of scientific works. They are gone, and they are gone unless they are preserved somewhere. So yes, education is one of the main tools that any society. We invested in education. When we invested on the education, we were investing in the future of our country and the people well-being. And those are gone, and this is by design of Abiy and Isaias. Let's talk about Isaias dismantling all those and hauling to Eritrea some of those machineries. This is a dictator who has been sitting in the helm of power for about 34 years. What he has done is ruin the country and the people. The country and the people. Some of their journalists who are engaged selling body parts of their own citizens. And this has been proven by many organizations who has a filtered access in Sinai and other areas. So the cruelty of this regime is beyond and above. So this is a regime that he has no regard for Eritreans, will much care for Tigrayans. Yeah, he will have an opportunity, and he had an opportunity to do some damage and harm. So yeah, I mean, it just it is a very hard subject, really, to fathom and to think about it. Such atrocity and such cruelty that you will never expect to see of the two people culturally interlocated each other. I mean, as a people, in terms of language, in terms of culture, in terms of neighbor, in terms of marriage, we have the same psychological makeup. The difference is just only clear. They were under a colony for so long, and we were not. And sometimes, colony can give a little bit light, it can be shed a little bit light of civilization and education. Unfortunately, it didn't help Eritrea. What the worst form of servitude by Italians. They like to dice is the way they want it. As you guys know, it was only until 4th grade. But after Eritrea joined, all the universities were opened and more enlightened, more Eritreans taking an opportunity in higher education, and more representation in Ethiopian life during the emperor times, even then after. So those are the historical background. They benefited out of Ethiopia. And Tigrayans has we never had any universities. How many high schools were in Tigray? I mean, back then during the emperor time. And the emperor deliberately was trying to use Tigray to be uneducated, to be poor, and Tigrayans to be marginalized. And most people of Tigrayan origin, they were working out of their country. And that has the implication that they have to serve, even, the Amhara elites, jokingly, they are saying, all Tigrayans who can work and up to Tana and develop all those lands. Land is not an issue, but we'll ask them that they should not claim the land is theirs. This is the attitude that comes from generation to generation, and those bigots has been fed. Therefore, coming to your question, yes, this is to punish Tigray, to punish for many, many years so that our knees is broken so that we cannot stand up. But as I said earlier, this kind of cruelty will never make us, our back break as they like us to be. This is even, as you have seen it, the last 3 months, even some of the users, some of our children, that they have little knowledge about our Tigray, but they have seen the love that pours through their parents about their country, about the people. And that was a motivating factor for them to ignite on their heart, and that the world can hear. And really, they have done something that all of us can be proud. Not only Tigrayans, by any oppressed people, what could be done. And this is a lesson that has learned from Tunisia, a lesson that has learned from Egypt when the Egyptian dictator was toppled, because social media has played a great role. And our kids, being in Western country, being in America, the countries that have known little, they have to put forefront within 3 months to Security Council. Think about the Eritreans. They claim they have been fighting for 30 years. One time never been in Security Council. We have done so much. This is the resilience that those kids have gotten from their family. There is nothing to explain beyond and above that. Therefore, I'm trying to come to your point, all those atrocity in terms of inhumanity, in terms of destruction, in terms of burning, as we speak today, in Gijet, in Samra, houses are being destroyed, crops are being looted and burned, and people are thrown outside. Still, atrocity is going on in Tigray as we speak. And the fight that every Tigray should and should not stop until those invading forces are out of our country. That's the first thing that we ask. The rest we can do. We don't need, nobody wants interference. If they don't want interference, let us give us weapons, all the things, we can take them out. There is no doubt about that. the will of the people. We are defending. We are not inventing any country. We are defending who we are. We are defending our land. Therefore, we can rebuild all those universities, factories. One thing we could not rebuild and bring back is the lives of our sons, daughters, priests, and lives, innocent lives.
Let me add one thing to that point. Mr. Berakheth explained it really well. I just want to add one thing is the main reason, one of the main reasons is we know from Eritrea, they don't have young people. Well, the leader of their country, first of all, they don't have any factories. They don't have any kind of jobs available for the younger generation of the Eritreans. So when the younger generation, when the young people who are supposed to be university students, who are supposed to work in those factories, who are using their skills, what they are gaining it from universities, working in those pharmaceutical companies, like in Tigray, that was burned down by Eritrea. So the main reason, one of the main reasons is to force those young people. One is those factories are gone. If they're disappeared from Tigray, those young people, the Tigrayans, will be forced for migration out of their land, just like the Eritreans. Or they will get into submission. They will join the Ethiopian military to help the Ethiopia military to fight against outside force. So one of the main reasons, besides what Mr. Berakheth explained, is to force the main reason is these factories, the pharmaceutical, the textile factories, they're the backbone of economy for the Tigray people. So if they burn down these factories, then those young people will be forced for migration, therefore leaving the land. So that's one of the main reasons as well.
Okay. Let me explain about, to ask you one question. Abiy Ahmed, when the war, when he started the war in Tigray on November 4, Abiy told the Ethiopian parliament the war will conclude with no single casualties. Since the war started, tens of hundreds were being killed already. It's actually being killed daily. And he would end the war in 3 days, but the war is still going on. And I think credible sources indicate that involvement of Eritrean army since the war started. And also, I think Abiy Ahmed, in the eyes of international media, before the war starts and after the war and now, how do you explain? I mean, Abiy Ahmed, I have seen a lot of media outlets right now talking differently about Abiy Ahmed. Abiy Ahmed is the first Nobel laureate on trial at the ICC. Abiy Ahmed is this. Okay, before the war, we have seen different story. Abiy Ahmed is a very peaceful guy, the Nobel laureate, and he's making peace in the Horn of Africa, in Ethiopia. Abiy. Now, do you guys think that the world is know about Abiy at this current movement? And I want you to explain about the eyes of the international media about Abiy and Isaias now and 3 months back. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it is. The honeymoon is over. There is a saying called the honeymoon is over, because you're not going to have a year-round honeymoon. that's impossible. That euphoria, how young and clever he is. I mean, he is a deceiver. He can sell, snake oil, as the Americans say, to a global population. See, as I said earlier, his status as a man is as fake as his degree. That's what I call it, really. When we talk about his education, his outgrowing, it has some part to explain who he is. Think about that. Nobody will tell you which school he has gone and which classmate he has. But he is the greatest deceiver. I mean, to earn a PhD all the way to, Nobel Prize. I mean, think about that. How he deceived not only Ethiopia, he is awarded at the world stage. And this is a pathological lie, a crook who uses people for lust of his power. And look Magarsa, Lama Magarsa, what he did. Look Jawar, what he did. Actually, Jawar had said it and explained it very well. And he was like a prophet. He, in one of, I wish we share with the audience, I don't have it. He explained what is awaiting the way this pathological liar is acting. At the end, he will be immersed and submerged within our track of lies that will be on headline. A Nobel Prize is going to be indicted for genocide in New York Times. He said that a year ago. And this is what's happening today in reality, that no one seems to understood back then Jawar. And I was so surprised after I heard how he put it eloquently, and he has seen the ways this Magnumania leader acted back then and now. So the image of, not only the image of Abiy as a person, the image of Ethiopia as a country has been trashed. This is fact. And all those ministers, all those diplomats has become liars. Sometimes, when you lie in a way people can understand you, can make you believe. And those liars, they lie naked. I mean, let us start with Eritreans' involvement. Until now, they are denying. Until now, they are denying. I mean, until now. See, no matter you bring proof, they deny. With such kind of a pathological liars, the credibility of Ethiopia is just trashed. And I'm telling you, even, by any standard, I don't have any faith on those people, what they say, not only that, they are using the institution as an instrument for their lies and deception for the Ethiopian public and at large for the world. This is a guy, he talks with the German chancellor, and when the German chancellor, she questioned him on many of issue about Tigray, ongoing genocide, he says something else in the press. Well, we talked today with a chancellor for economic, but also he forgot that the institution of deception of mass media owned by Ethiopian government is not the same as a democratic country. When in a democratic institution, leaders give brief, a press release, they, word by word, they get a copy of it, unlike Ethiopia. So this is the lies that we are accustomed every time. So I don't even, entertain such stupidity from Fana and whatever Walter News, because they have been used worse than ever before as a propaganda machine for the ruling party, especially for Abiy. They don't have the decency even, to say few truths into it. So the question that you brought, Abiy and Ethiopia, once and for all, their credibility is trashed. Especially those diplomats, nobody is going to believe them. Do you? No one. I mean, those are the people. I don't know what to explain, how to explain a pathological liar. So the whole institution is based on lies and deception. And yes, the honeymoon is over now. The king is naked. The king doesn't have any clothes.
He's naked.
Maybe
Thank you. Dr. Emmanuel, please.
So I think Mr. Barakat has explained it really well. But to add a little bit that, like he said, he uses words to deceive people. To be honest with you, at the beginning when he took over, I was one of those people who are convinced he will bring change to our people in Tigray, in Ethiopia, in a very positive way. But he, like we said earlier, he's a pathological liar. He has no experience in leadership, no experience at all. He's a puppet. The master is Isaias Afwerki. He follows the footsteps of Isaias. And Isaias, we know he's been involved in supporting Al-Shabaab, terrorism in Somalia, just selling his own people, killing his own people, arresting his own people in the last 30 years. So he's following his footsteps. The world was very happy to see a peace agreement between Ethiopia and Eritrea at the beginning. But it was not a real peace agreement. It was a mutual agreement to attack the people of Tigray. That was the main intention. It was to bring terror and state-sponsored killings that we were seeing right now. So in the last years, at the beginning, it seemed very peaceful, very nice. He even won the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize. But right now, to your question, answering your question, Ephraim, the world, they have their own measurement system. They measure leaders in many different ways. The United Nations, the Amnesty International, the HRW, they have their own systems. And Abiy is not the first dictator in the world. There are so many dictators. Unfortunately, most of them are Africans, African leaders, especially Ethiopia. It had so many dictator kings in the past. By the way, Tigrayans, this is not the first time Tigrayans are being killed at this time. The last kings, they've killed so many Tigrayans because they say no when they see oppression. They oppose to the dictator system they're trying to impose upon the people of Ethiopia, especially upon the people of Tigray. So the world, they measure the government of Abiy. For example, economically, if you see, Ethiopia is going down the hill. Mr. Barakat explained earlier, from 10-digit, double-digit growth, it's almost going to negative digits. when the world sees this dramatic change, they know for sure something is wrong. Political opponents inside Ethiopia. It's not only Tigrayanis. Political prisoners in Oromia. Where are they? Where is the free election? Where is the democratic system? Democratic election. There is no democratic election. The European countries, the developed countries, the United States are well aware of the system that's happening right now. This system, so many dictators have used it in the last 200, 300 years. They used it already. So it's not a new formula. It's an expired formula being used over and over again. The only difference is a government brings another foreign government to attack its own people. This never been in the history of the world. Never. So politically, Abiy has failed. Economically, he is going down the hill. He has failed. The media, there is no free media in Ethiopia at this time. Every media blames the TPLF. Every media blames Tigrayan origin people bringing havoc and destruction to Ethiopia. TPLF left the governing body in Ethiopia 3 years ago. They moved to Tigray. They moved to Mekelle already. They apologized to their own people. Their own people accepted their apologies, and they started working. This, like I said earlier, Ethiopia without Tigray is nothing. It's a motionless body with no soul in it. It's just flesh only. So there is a saying, American saying, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. The world would not be fooled again by the government of Ethiopia, by this prime minister. He is very incompetent, with no experience in leadership. Look, yesterday, after the United States gave him a 3-day deadline, guess where he went to? To Master Isaias. He flew to Eritrea. You can see from this, he has no credibility, no experience at all in leading his country. Look, the way people are living in Addis Ababa. They cannot even purchase food. Everything has tripled in price. So the world is aware what's going on in Ethiopia. We just have to bring what's going on in Tigray. We just have to bring more evidence. We have to expose the lies again and again. We know for sure we're going to bring him to justice.
Yeah, I just want to add, Efrem, that I forgot about.
Mr. Berakat, I want you to explain this too, because it's related to it. We have done a lot here just to be heard. What we need from the Biden administration, we said immediate ceasefire. We ask immediate withdrawal of Eritrean forces from Tigray. We ask allow unfettered humanitarian access to all places in Tigray, independent investigation, bring perpetrators of the war to the criminal, what do they call it?
ICC Criminal Court.
Right. But either, so to do this, we did protest. We asked congressmen and senators, either any other way, because this is taking too long, and our people is dying every day. All this that I ask you about distraction, looting, raping, for 3 months is too much already. We have done everything in the last 3 months for myself, yourself, all of us. We've done protests. We are senators. We are Tigrayan Americans. Is there any other way that you think of to be heard and to do the Security Council to be done something very quick so that way we can save our people? Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, beside all the lies and the deception, he has another title. He became the second most liar leader in the world. And you guys can Google it. And I'm not making it up. There is one person in Eastern Europe, the same status that he competes about, who will be the most liar, you and me type of. But unfortunately, he is the second liar in the world as a leader for now. Probably he is aspiring to be a number one, if that really suits him to describe who he is. And this is not a joke, and I mean it. And there is also another character that is foreign press secretary. He used to be ambassador in Sweden. Dina Mufti is it reminds me during the Gulf War era, called the foreign minister of Iraq, Bob something. And this guy lies to the extreme, and he has like a character. When the Americans are already in the town, he said, "We finished them, we killed them. There is no one survived. All that's infidels, but they are already in the town, disseminating the whole Iraqi forces." So those are the same people. I mean, no matter what evidence you bring them, they always deny. So this is a character of, as we said earlier, the system as a whole built on lies and deception, the whole structure. I mean, we are not particularly talking one system. The whole system is based on lies and deception. So you cannot expect something out of it. So in terms of what we should do, well, we're not going to discuss here openly what our plans are, because our plan is our plan. We'll share it, our plan, with our trusted messengers. We're not going to tell them what we are going to do and expose our plans. But our work is a work in progress. We are going to use all the means available at our disposal. There are some techniques of a campaign that we are not going to share on social media here. But until those invading forces, be it the Amhara Fotalebash or Special Defense Forces or Ethiopian defenses for that matter, until they are whipped from Tigray, we're going to continue to protest day and night, no matter what. This has to be underlined. We haven't scratched yet, because you were speaking eloquently about the plight of Tigrayans as we speak. There is war, there is starvation. So that means it's going to give us the strength to continue to fight for freedom, for their freedom, and to live a decent life like any human being can. We are not asking no more, no less. But I want to touch one subject here. What should be the proposal for peace? I think this is more important. First of all, I'm going to start with Eritrea. Since the independence of Eritrea under this dictatorial regime, they have war with Yemen, they have war with Sudan, they have war with Djibouti, and they have war with Ethiopia. With Ethiopia 2 times. So I like to see that all the military forces dismantled just like what Germans did on the Second World War, except have a police. Because the world cannot afford to have another human disaster for humanity's sake. Think about it. On Badme, how many Eritreans? Over 40,000. He admitted only 19,000, but you double it. Over 40,000 Eritreans has perished. During the 30-year war, probably about another 50,000. With Yemen, with all those countries that I mentioned. So the world cannot afford to equip this dictator if there is going to be a peace in that region. So dismantle all military except, public police enforcement. Second, for all the things that he has done damage, compensate. The people of Tigray has to be compensated from the earning of the government. I know they have some gold mining. This directly has to finance for all the things that they have done. Because we have never learned from the Ethio-Eritrean conflict of the Algiers agreement that our leaders had made so much mistake that costs us so much life to pay right now. We were not the aggressors, as a final verdict testifies. They were reliable, and they haven't even paid the money that they should paid as a compensation for the war. See, so many things our leaders has made so many mistakes. As a winner of the war, they should have imposed their will on this dictator. But they didn't. They put him on equal basis so that he can negotiate. See, you cannot have, you started and ignite war. At the same time, when you are defeated, you cannot sit on the same chair with a winner of the war. That costs us so much in terms of life and the economy. So mistakes has been done. So second mistake should not be done. We make sure this dictator, if he survives, I am in a belief he's not going to survive, but there will be always a possibility another dictator, maniac like him. I mean, that's the world that we live in. And looking with the system and the behavior of the regime, there is a possibility that way. So that's the main important at the end, how we have to tie the knots for possible peace in the future depends on the demand that we put forth. And this is what worries me more than anything else. No mistake should be done again at the expense of our people and the country. And I am worried, and really the focus of the subject should be all of our Tigrayans, that we should think on the proposal for the peace for the future, if a peace in the region has to prevail.
Okay. Dr. Amanuel, if you have something to say on this regard, please you may do so.
Sure. As Barakat stated, I'm not going to be explicit on what plans we have and what we're going to do. We have a short-term goal and we have a long-term goal. I'm going to keep the long-term goal to myself and to my people who are like me, who share the same ideas, have the same concern with me. But in the short-term goal right now, the most important thing for us is to make sure the world understands and is aware of what's happening in Tigray. We have to keep doing what we're doing. Our people who are living abroad have been very active in exposing the genocide that's going on in Tigray on our people via Facebook, via Twitter, via different mass media organizations. We have to be persistent and keep doing it on a daily basis so that everyone is on board. That the reason for that is because we have to make sure aid organizations have to have access to Tigray so that they can supplement the people who are in need. Right now, we have 4.5 million people in need of basic necessities like water, food, medicine. This is very vital for the survival of anybody. You cannot live without food for one day, without water for one day. So we have to make sure our short-term goal should be aid organizations are willing to go to Tigray to help the injured civilians. We're not asking help for the military, for the Tigray Defense Forces, but for the civilians who are in the middle of the conflict, especially being targeted by Amhara militias and Eritrean soldiers. So that's one of the main things. Second, we have to push on allowing access to mass media organizations. They have already started it. There has been some obstacle. They could not do their jobs properly. Their video recording camera has been taken away, but we have to make sure. Somehow, we have to bring those evidences outside Tigray and show it to the world in the short term, right now. If we keep doing that, then the world will get more support from the world, will have more pressure on the government of Ethiopia. We know the country is going down the hill economically. Sooner or later, he already said it, he is very good at begging money from other countries. I'm just quoting his words. He's very good at begging. The amount of money that he begged before, he has already wasted it. He has no money left at this time. So we have to make sure we have to close all these routes of systems that he can get money from outside from other world countries. So those are the only things that we can do right now. We have to make sure our voices are heard. We have to keep doing our protest, peaceful demonstrations, possibly twice a month or once a week if possible, to make sure so that other organizations are involved, especially religious organizations, churches. We have to make sure those churches are aware, the church leaders, they have a big influence on those political leaders as well. So we have to make sure, we have to hit it from different angles so that everybody is aware what's going on in Tigray. So those are the things that I have to say. But we have other planners, we have great planners. The good thing is our people, they've been leading Ethiopia for the last 30 years. They have a lot of help. We have people with great of experience who live abroad. They have a way to communicate with the outside world, politically, diplomatically. They have experience. So we have to be able to use their skills, their experience to help our people integrate.
If I may also add into it, we have also to expose some of the atrocity and some of the lies that the government is accustomed for. For instance, they said that they spent $40 billion giving aid to Tigray people. This is totally a lie. I think he is counting it, the money that he has given, $1 billion to Eritrean mercenary troops, as we heard. And this is a lie. And also trucks, they will be seen taking pictures like as if they are going to Tigray. And then once they reach Tigray, they take pictures, and then they leave like 10 of them, and 80 of them, they go to Amhara regions. And this has been done many times, and we have to expose. If anything that comes aid to Tigray, it has to be monitored by international observers, and until the people received the needed help. And we need a witness and observers make sure those ideas reaching to those intended people. And now they are using Tigray's starvation for their own economic gain. And it has been seen many times, and we have to expose that. This is, and also the second lie. They said there are only 1.8 people that are starved. This had been many times. And then on the report, they said there were 3.8 million people who had received aid. So suddenly they inflated the number by 2 million. I don't know how. But this is a lie that we and the international organizations are accustomed for. So one thing, we have to expose them in terms of aid and food delivery. And this is a very important issue. Unless it is followed by international observers, I think will be hoodwinked on their lies and the deception that they are accustomed with. So those are the things that we should make sure that also international organizations, journalists have unfettered access to all areas of the country. Now, we are only talking about big towns like, Mekelle, Aksum, Adigrat. Think about those villagers that has been disseminated and burned when they are alive in some instances. And there are horror stories to tell. Some of the villages even totally people had disseminated indiscriminately and died for. So this is only a beginning. This is only a beginning. We are just only seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. There is more atrocities that has to be reported, but unfettered access to those areas should be our priority push. On the second level, you heard me many times that we do everything right, but one thing we seem to forget is to get in touch with our senators and Congress to tell the true story of the country. Unlike our Ethiopians who are trying to lie and mispresent the facts about Tigray. And some of them are even begging in the name of Tigray for their own economic gain so that they can spend the time. I mean, like this Tamani or whatever his name, he calls himself activist, but I call him a different. He's not an activist. He is just a beggar, and he has never worked all his life, but he used people's misery for his own gain. And that has been his history. Therefore, we have to expose those kind of people. They are using our people for their own economic gain, and our people should not duped by this and any other organization who they think they are helping Tigray's people. They are not helping Tigray's people. So those are the things we can do, and many more. But the most important is try to get in touch with our senators and Congress people, to write them, to inform them, because still many of the Ethiopians, they are saying that this is a law enforcement going into Tigray. And this is not a law enforcement. And many gullible, senators and, Congress people, they believe that. I had the opportunity to talk to some of the staffers, and I've been told they are getting a lot of calls, a lot of emails from those. But they assured me they don't see the number of emails that is coming through. What they see is the facts on the ground, and we have to make sure the facts on the ground are perpetuated rightly, so that we are not going to only limit ourselves protesting in the street. And I'm not trying to undermine whatever we did. The protest is just only to highlight what is going on in Tigray. It's just a campaign. It is not an end goal. Therefore, we should continue. We should continue to appeal to international organizations, and as Americans, citizens, we have the right to, question and support, ask support from our senators and Congress people, and that is the most important that we should do. The facts are with us. Amnesty and human rights and many international acclaimed organizations have already testified what's going on in Tigray. So this is the weakness that we have, and we have to really make sure those things are done. For those people who cannot write, and I know writing is a challenge, we can provide that. What they have to do is just use their name, zip code, and address, and share their concern with their constituency. And this is the only thing that we can do. And also, we should not forget, we should, there are good things that's going on. The spirit of our people. Look at Mona Lisa. And she is, with all this, she lost her leg. She lost her arm. But she never lost her spirit. I mean, that's something that, that keeps you going. That keeps you to breathe the fresh air. How lucky and grateful we are to live in this society. And what we do is only to protest them a couple of hours a day. And I call it, this is a privilege to be born from that society. And we should not. And we should not complain. If those people cannot complain, and the Tigray Defense Forces fighting neck to neck, starved, thirsty, sleeping on the ground, if they have hardly sleep, demonstrating here and there, and sitting on your show and talking about those brave people is nothing. And for me, it is a privilege to be a Tigrayan.
It is a privilege to be a Tigrayan. Thank you so much. I think, thank you so much, both of you, for being with Cyber Power of Tigray to explain about the veto powers, starting with, and then the current situation from the beginning of the war until right now, about the looting and destruction of raping, everything. We have addressed so many issues, and I hope this discussion will be going through to the people who are supposed to help us. And this is very critical and urgent issues that we need to be heard of. We have been doing protests the whole day, and we are discussing now after the protest. We wake up early in the morning. We have done a lot, and we are still working, struggling. This is because our people are dying. We are doing this because we need to do something. They need to hear us. We are doing it on social media. We are doing it on the street. We are doing it all over. This is for the purpose of the senators, the congressmen, the mayors, the American people, the European Union, the Australian people, all the whole world. We are crying for those people who are not, they don't have any kind of social media, internet, anything. So we are voicing for the voiceless people of Tigray at this time. So I thank you so much. At the end, maybe if you would like to say something for the people of Tigray, for the diaspora and other people, please, you may go ahead and say something, because I have I did not ask you a lot. I know you have a lot to say, but maybe if I did not ask you anything at the end, I will give you some time to express your feelings at the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Cyber Power of Tigray, for giving me the chance to speak today. I'm honored to speak for our people, for my people. This is the least that we can do. Remember, they are fighting. They are between death and life. Our young men and women are fighting day and night against the occupying forces, both from Amhara and Eritrean soldiers. On our part, we can do more than that. We can help them in any way we can. So this is the least that we can do. So I just want to make sure our strength is our unity. We have to be united no matter what. We may have different kind of voices. We may have different ideas. We may have different opinions. The most thing that matters is for our we're fighting for our people, for our nation Tigray. That's the most important thing. People have different political views. We have to respect their political views. We should not demonize them or push them to the edge so that they can wage a war against us with the enemy. So in the long run, we're going to have different ideas. If we have different ideas, we grow, we develop. If we have different ideas, we flourish. If we have the same ideas, imagine Isaias, one person leading the same country, the same person with the same idea for 30 years, the people has evaporated. So I have a great hope. I believe in our people. They are going to fight. We're going to fight until the end. We're going to prevail. Tigray will prevail. At the same time, we have to keep our unity. Our enemies use our differences to sneak into our people so that they can create divisions among us. A nation, a people that's divided is committing suicide by itself. So therefore, we have to welcome everybody, all Tigrayans, no matter their political views, as long as it benefits our nation Tigray, our people Tigray. That's the most important thing. So my idea to everybody who's listening at this time, all Tigrayans, please be the voice for the voiceless, for our people. Let's fight day and night for them. We have to make sure they are heard. We have to make sure the atrocities are being exposed to the world. So I just want to say that. Thank you so much for having me today.
And I'm going to share the same echo. Well said. We should be united by purpose and survival, in the will to survive. Our enemies are targeting us, who we are as the Tigrayans, not by the ideology or by the outlook we have. Ethnic cleansing is just trying to eradicate us, who we are. So unity is the foundation of our survival, whether we like it or not. So no matter what issue in previous times with TPLF we have, it is a time that we should forgive each other and try to protect Tigray, the people in the land. I know this sounds like, why do we need to? Please, the nation is dying. Our people are dying, just only for survival, who we are. So our unity is the most important if we're going to continue to survive like a people elsewhere. And that's not too much to ask for, because we are asking humanity to survive. We can have ideas that can be flourish once we establish the foundation of our unity. So for those of you, Tagaru, who have some issues, please come together and let us work together to build our country. Our people, the only hope they have is within us. They invested on us. They send us to school to learn and to help them. But some of us are living in a very comfort zone. And this is the time to give back to those people who have helped us to be who we are. If I didn't get the proper education that was supported by peasant taxpayers, I wouldn't be here. So we are just asking to invest on those people who are invest on us. And fellow Tigrayans, please, our people need us. So let's work together. And this is really what I have to say. And it's not too much to ask for. And thank you, Cyber Power, for having us to share our thoughts, our opinions. We are not experts, but we are a patriotic Tigrayans in such endeavor. And we are here to share with our brothers, sisters, to give a little bit hope. Hope is the one that really sustains us as a human being. And the hope should be flourish. And I see all those problems will be gone one day. And all of us will be embrace each other and build. The task is a lot ahead of us. Tigray needs us. So let's see the good times that's gonna are waiting for us. In order to do that, Tagaru throughout the world unite for purpose. Thank you so much.
Likewise.